Here are 5 ways that you can get better at Jiu Jitsu faster. The first one is going to be attending small class sizes or private training. Getting that individualized attention is huge. So having a class that's not overrun with people is critical for your development. A coach can only be with so many people at one time. Now, here in our studio, I make sure that I am with every single group. I sit down, I spend a few minutes per technique to make sure that everybody's got the pieces correct. And before we move on, we understand the basic concepts of what's happening. If you have 30 people in a class, it is impossible to get to everybody and fix the details. So much so that I've actually heard people talking about they were in a seminar one time and there was a bunch of people on the mat and they looked at what was happening and said, not even enough time to fix that. They just moved on. So having the ability to have private training or be in a class where you are getting hands-on attention with your instructor. That's going to be number 1. You can get good with bigger class sizes, but it's going to slow your learning curve. Now, some rooms are amazing, right? So if you're in a big room, but you have so many high-level guys and you're working with one of them, they can show you the way. But if you're in a younger room, you definitely need smaller class sizes. Number 2 is obviously consistency. You have to show up and you have to put in the work. Drilling alone is not going to do it. You have to get into live sparring. So show up and put in the work. Number 3, right away moving into number 3 is have a focus. Don't just show up to class and be willy-nilly about what you're working on. You have to focus on something. Now, you might not be able to get as many drills in as you would like in that position, but during the open training, ask your partner if you can actually start from a position and go live from that position and then reset. This is called positional drilling. So really focus on the individual places that you want to get better at and hyper focus on them. Find every avenue, how to get into it, how to get out of it, where your submissions are, when you need to bail on that technique. Knowing exactly where you're going is huge to Jiu-Jitsu. That is how we establish our patterns. So one to the next, to the next, to the next. What I like to call this is tying knots. Your opponent can only untie one knot at a time. So if you have a seatbelt grip, they have to address the seatbelt grip alone. If you have a seatbelt grip and hooks, now they have to order a priority attack to get out, and they have to clear multiple pieces, and you can keep stacking these layers of knots on top. Something like the crucifix position is fantastic for this because we can tie so many knots with their arm, with their other arm, wringing our own gi around. So there are so many positions that we want to establish knots and then making those more and more complex, tying our opponent down and really restricting them. This can be done in gi and no gi. Number 4, realize what is actually holding you back. Is there a common place that you keep failing from? Is there a single place or a position that you keep getting submitted from? Ask your partners how they got it, what they did, what they saw to get to that point. And number 5, be a good sparring partner. Because all of this together, if you're not being a good sparring partner, if you're not being a good training partner, nobody's going to want to roll with you. And if you don't have training partners, you're not going to get good. It's kind of like if you were to watch an instructional and say, I'm good, but you only ever watched it. So if you don't have your training partners, you're never going to get good. And that's why so many people think their training partners and the people around them when they get belt promotions, because if people aren't in the class, then there's no way for us to actually practice it, and our wives will only tolerate so much. There are many more ways that you can get good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and more videos are to come. Thanks for watching the Belts Off podcast.